As Gladys mentioned, we'll be presenting today on the Autodesk Construction Cloud and are very excited to do so. First, with some introductions. My name is Travis Hawthorne. I'm a strategic account executive with Imaginet Technologies. I've been with Imaginet for about 7 years now and have been helping federal government and also some state and local agencies improve their design and engineering processes over that amount of time. Alan, would you like to say a word about yourself?
Thanks, Travis. My name is Alan DeLuce. I've been with Imaginet going on now 2 years. I've been in the industry, AEC industry, for 18 or 19 years. I've been on design and consulting, and out in the construction industry is in BIM and VDC management. And my focus here with Imaginet is on the Autodesk Construction Cloud.
Thank you, Alan. All right, just a brief introduction on Imaginet Technologies. For those of you who don't know us, we are part of the RAND Worldwide Corporation, and what we do here at Imaginet is help best-in-class companies realize the benefits of their technology investments. I mean, really what we do here, we think of ourselves as a systems integrator, representing a portfolio of technology solutions for the architecture, engineering, construction, and even manufacturing industry. We're very excited to be here, and the way that we help our organizations and our clients realize this benefit is through a team of subject matter experts. We have a full staff of application engineers, application developers who understand your industry, who understand your challenges, and can work with you to help achieve better business outcomes through the technology that we represent. And today, Autodesk Build being just one of those technologies.
All right. Well, let's take a look at today's agenda. We've swept through our introductions. I'll be talking about the as far as today's agenda for the actual presentation, we're going to focus on the ACC as a whole and all of the various aspects of the ACC, and by design, by phase, and how everything kind of comes together to deliver a overall project to facilitate project delivery in a connected environment. And then after that, Travis and I will discuss the experiences that he has had with VA and some of the various and how Autodesk Build played a role and some of the stuff there. And then lastly, we'll get into some questions if anybody has any.
And Alan, I'll just jump in just for a minute. Apologies. Just so everyone knows, we were hoping to have a presenter from the VA today, a gentleman from VISN 2 at the VA. At the last minute, he wasn't able to attend, but he gave us full permission to tell and share his story in detail, and has also gave us permission to provide his contact information at the end of the webinar. If anyone would like to reach out to him directly to validate our claims and to have any one-on-one time to share his experience, he's more than happy to do so. Thank you, Alan.
Awesome. So as far as what we want to cover today, basically just start off, where are we? And where are we at today? What do we have in front of us? And why might we want to consider changes in our organization and and how we approach projects? Again, we'll talk about the ACC by the various phases of project delivery: design, pre-construction, project management, on into operations and facilities. We do want to focus highly on build, because that is kind of the star of the show these days, for sure, certainly in project management and kind of throughout the whole life cycle. Autodesk Build is really how we can connect our all parties, the office to the shop to the field. And again, lastly, Travis and I will have some discussion. So jumping in today, it's pretty obvious. We all feel it. We work in silos. No matter what you do and what aspect, what phase of overall project delivery that you're working in, we are definitely working in siloed software, siloed organizations, things like that. And this can be with internal parties as well as external parties. Essentially, because change is hard and it takes time, we still today work in scenarios where we're just not as connected as we can be, or essentially we just have disconnected workflow, disconnected communications, and so on. And that's where, enter things like the Autodesk Construction Cloud, Build, and so on and so forth. These products allow us to break down those silos and, enter a more connected workflow throughout our daily lives. We've all definitely made changes. We know that. We all know there's not a lot of us that are using the flip phones anymore, right? We've all got the smartphones, and we've made leaps and bounds in change over the last few years. Certainly over the last decade, we've really come a long way. If you think back, the iPhone was in 2007. When it came on the scene. How far have we come since then? Where are we at? What version of the phone are you on right now? And so we've made changes, but at the same time, because of the fact that change can be hard, we still have those silos and things we spoke of. But we are moving forward, and if we are willing to take a look at and adopt some of these new technologies that are out there on the market today, we will begin that connected path to go down that connected path and start having a better enhancing our communication and connecting our work from day to day. And so with that in mind, this is where the Autodesk Construction Cloud can come in and play a role. And essentially what we're able to do with the Autodesk Construction Cloud and the various pieces and parts to the puzzle is we are able to unlock efficiency that we were unable to attain before. Essentially what we're able to do is deliver a connected design and construction experience for the entire building life cycle. And as we call it, as you'll hear it probably 1,000 times, it is a single source of truth. We always want to have that one place to go to get the answer, to get the current information. And that's, again, where the Autodesk Construction Cloud comes into play. And so why do we need a single source of truth? Why do we need what we call the Autodesk docs, for instance, the common data environment, the CDE? Why do we need those things? Well, there's a huge cost to having bad information. There's a huge cost to those silos. There's problems that we're dealing with day to day that really hinder our progress and cause major cost. They cost us a lot of money in construction, in our daily lives, and just quality of life on overall project delivery. Time is one of our most important assets in daily life in general, but certainly in work. When we lose time, we're costing ourselves money. And as you can see, 35% of our time is wasted doing things that aren't necessarily going to better the project and actually get us moving downstream. We lose tons of money in the industry in rework. And there's a reason, as you can see, $280 billion, there's a reason why we have to do rework. There's a reason why it gets installed and it was wrong and it has to get cut out and then put back in. And that's because we aren't necessarily working with the most current information. And that is the root cause of all of these headaches and the heartburn that we deal with in project delivery every day. And so enter the Autodesk Construction Cloud. And so we'll start here. This is a very big umbrella slide. I start here because this gives us an idea of the overall footprint of the Autodesk Construction Cloud and the pieces and parts of it. But unfortunately, this slide is too, there's just kind of TMI. So what we want to do is break it down into project phases and life in the, the phase of the design delivery, project delivery overall, so that we can have a good idea of where the pieces fit over that life cycle. And so we'll move along into kind of getting ready and starting off. And let's just focus at this point on the design phase. And so this might be, everyone might be a little bit more familiar with some of the things in this phase, the products in this phase that we're seeing on the screen right now, whether that be that you're utilizing Revit for in design, or you're using Civil 3D in design, let alone Plant 3D. But ultimately, the Autodesk Construction Cloud aspect here being both Autodesk BIM Collaborate Pro, let alone Autodesk Docs. So I'll start here and give a little bit of a spiel on Docs, and so that we can understand kind of how that plays a role and how it is kind of the common data environment, it's the common thread amongst the entire platform. So Docs is the storage. You can think of it as the like a Google Drive or another type of product like that. It is the cloud-based storage for overall project information. And so when we're working in our Revit models, our Civil 3D models, Plant 3D, we are utilizing the storage in Autodesk Docs to create as the storage for those projects for the various aspects of Revit that we always need. If we need to go and use Docs and BIM Collaborate Pro for cloud-based work sharing, for instance, we have those remote employees that we need to be able to work from office to office. Well, BIM Collaborate Pro facilitates that. And other things that are available to us within BIM Collaborate Pro in that design phase that we really need to take a look at, that we could maybe leverage to enhance our design process, for instance, the model coordination side. With model coordination, we're able to do automated clash detection, and that helps us to ultimately deliver a more quote unquote constructible model, so to speak, at the end of the day. And ultimately that reduces some of the rework and some of the RFIs or some of the things that come at us downstream. So it ultimately lands us a better deliverable out of the gate. And again, Docs is the base, the foundation of all of these. Moving into pre-construction, there's a lot of pieces of the puzzle here. None of this, we may not necessarily ever have to be involved with some of these pieces if you're on the design side, or even as an owner, or depending on where you land in the ecosystem or in the space, you may never even have to dabble with these. But we point them out because they're part of the Autodesk Construction Cloud as a whole. And what we want you to understand and grasp is that these are what your industry partners are using, whether that be Assemble for consuming Revit models and understanding 4D analysis of a schedule versus the model to be able to simulate that. 2D and 3D takeoff with Autodesk Takeoff, being able to use that Revit model to, again, take off those assemblies and so on. ProEst, this is a very powerful 2D and cost estimation platform, letting you simultaneously produce a takeoff and capture the costs, whether it be labor, materials, etc., of that. And it's just, one of the industry leading platforms for cost estimation. Building Connected, this is where GCs, CMs, and owners are going, and they're going out and capturing their project partners. They're able to go and find off of the world's largest network of builders where to go and find folks that you're going to work with on your building project. Also with TradeTap, you're able to go and get those pre-qualifications for those contractors, understand safety factors and the financials of the people that you want to partner with to make sure that it's going to be a smooth project. and bid board, another platform that helps subcontractors deal with their work and their bids. And lastly, Pipe. This is a very powerful platform. It's got 4 aspects to it: the auto specs, smart plans, closeout, and eBinder. It's a very, very powerful tool that lets us to helps us to expedite project kickoff, and it's a kind of a bookend. So it helps us to kick off quickly and cleanly, and then it helps us to close out as smoothly as possible as well, so we can move on to onto our next project. And again, noting down at the bottom, Autodesk Docs, we have, that is again, the repository for all of the information, and it's there throughout the life cycle of our building project so that we can access that common data environment that's that single source of truth. And as I said, we'll spend some time here focusing on Autodesk Build. And this is, Autodesk Build is what basically is the core of the Autodesk Construction Cloud. Years ago, when Autodesk identified that there was a large gap in the industry, needing to connect, obviously, where Autodesk has always been industry leading in the design side, but connecting that to project management and construction, let alone moving on downstream into facilities and operations and so on, Autodesk, they went out and they acquired a number of platforms. And again, a few years ago, they released what was the Autodesk Construction Cloud, and of course, Build being the project management and construction aspect. Essentially, it has taken industry-leading mobile platform, married that up with Autodesk's design side and their cloud-based model, content and collaborative effort to be an industry-leading 2D, 3D, just information accumulator. So a couple things about it. You can see the columns here. These are the various pieces and tasks and aspects of project delivery that you will deal with on a given day, any given day, whoever you are, wherever you are in project delivery. So this is essentially the Swiss Army knife of project management. It gives you all of these various aspects. You're able to execute all the various tasks, as you can see here, amongst many others. But ultimately, if you need to be delivering, you need to be following up on RFIs and submittals and keeping track of information and communication and all these things that are happening in project delivery. We need to be able to have visibility and transparency in that. And that's where Autodesk Build plays the role. We have the ability to put it in place on project delivery, and we are able to bring all of our project partners into under one roof, so that all aspects of project delivery happen in this one location in this common data environment. And what's great about it is it gives, again, full access. It gives access, not necessarily full access, but it gives us access and the ability to put all the right information in the right locations. We can see to it that project team members who don't necessarily need to be involved in every aspect of project delivery are able to see what they need, while others don't necessarily have to be involved and see anything else that they don't. And what's important is this transparency and visibility. We're able to accumulate a large, perhaps the most comprehensive data set in project management. And in doing so, that information rolls up to one of the most important parts of Build, which is our dashboards and the data that we are accumulating throughout the life cycle of building. So we have information, we have tools that roll up with our RFIs and all of the activity, issues, things like that. And they're accumulating all of this data. And it gives us the ability to have kind of analytics on the back end that help us to understand where there may be risk introduced into our project because of potential safety concerns, because of potential budgeting that isn't being met. Whatever the case is, we have the ability to have activities tracked and have project information reported, so we can have just greater visibility into overall project health throughout the life cycle. And so Autodesk Build gives us flexibility. It's highly configurable. You can make it operate, make it look however you see fit. There's lots of flexibility there. And it's just a very, very powerful tool in overall construction and project management and delivery. And by all means, if you have questions, please plug those into the chat. Let us know, because we definitely want to be engaging here. And if you have questions, please, we'll follow up with those at the end. One thing we want to talk about briefly, don't want to talk about, we don't need to spend too much time here, but ultimately, if you're not familiar with the terminology digital twin, then I'm sure, over the next few years, you certainly will become familiar with it. Digital twin being essentially the digital representation of your physical building. And Autodesk's entry into the market with digital twin is Autodesk Tandem. And again, what it does is it allows you to, through the life cycle of your building, you've potentially started in schematic with CAD, and then you move into the BIM, and then that BIM moves downstream and aids you in the building process, perhaps with your Revit and Navisworks models. And now you move downstream to handover, and then your construction team hands you this nice, beautiful model. Well, how are we going to utilize it? What can we do with it? Well, that's where we can leverage a tool like Tandem in operations and maintenance and facilities. And you can see there in the image, we're able to go and essentially tie this model. It becomes an as-maintained model, be able to leverage that data and kind of tie it in with building management systems and things like that, so that we can have this digital report that's a live operating building that's on our screen in front of us. We have done presentations on digital twin and Tandem, so please go check out our resources on our website, and you can go and review that whenever you get a chance. Would love to, again, ask us questions. We want to reach out and help you with any questions you have on any of this stuff. And so I'll jump in here and bring Travis back in, and we'll start here. So Travis, you there?
I am here.
Cool. So we want to just kind of throw that out there. We had him on board, and then again, was not able to make it, but we've had some good conversations with our contact, and we want to be able to kind of just briefly discuss some of those interactions here and how projects have been delivered. And at this point, Travis, you wanna dive in?
Yeah, sure. I'll start with the first item there, Alan, and I think it'd be fitting in typical game show fashion. After that, if you'd like to read off the questions,
For sure.
we can go that route. So yeah, to start, I think I've already done an introduction about myself, but just a bit of background here. So imagine it has worked with the VA for many years, well over a decade, probably a couple decades at this point. I've personally been working with the VA for the past 7 years, where I've helped to manage and support the Office of Information Technology and their pool of Autodesk CAD licenses. With that said, I'm working with the Autodesk Build, in VA VISN 2, which I'll talk about, has been a new venture for us in the past 12 months. So our experience, so my personal experience and our experience as an organization has been in helping VA VISN 2, which I'll kind of explain what the VISN here is in a second. We've helped them implement and deploy and define the solution to improve their construction project management all across the projects in this geographical region. A little bit of history and background around kind of the VA in this group. A VISN is effectively this geographical region within the Department of Veterans Affairs. VISN 2 represents the Northeast, so it's the New York, New Jersey Healthcare Network. That network oversees approximately 9 medical centers, effectively VA hospitals, and 46 outpatient clinics. It was the leadership, as you can see, Sam Ferris, who is the lead healthcare engineer at the VISN office, who had reached out to us, about 12 months ago, looking for a way to effectively improve construction project performance. So I'll pause there, and next question.
Awesome. So in partnering with Sam and things that you have come across with, obviously reaching out beyond to other VA individuals, what are some of the challenges that have been experienced, certainly that he experienced with the VISN 2 rollout? And when they first reach out, what were some of their challenges, and what were we able to, how were we able to meet those?
Yeah, great question. So I'll answer that a bit more on kind of the current state of this engineering group. So as I mentioned, when we think about improving construction project performance, the question is, what do we really mean by that? The targets that all of us know that we're trying to meet in a construction project are typically 2 targets, right? It's cost and it's schedule. So it's time and it's money. And if we're meeting those metrics, then we're happy. If we're not, which is not always easy to do, cost overruns happen, schedule overruns happen, but we want to improve and meet those metrics that we set out to. And so that was effectively their goal, right? It's how can we improve our performance against schedule, against cost. And then in addition to that, in terms of the current state, kind of what it looked like for them at the time, they have these 9 medical centers, the 46 outpatient clinics, but there's a ton of construction volume that was going on. We're talking about 500 million per year in construction volume, increasing to about $1 billion over the next 5 years. So they really wanted the solution in place. Out of those facilities that I just mentioned, many of the facilities were really acting independently, right? Everyone was kind of doing their own thing. There was no standardization about how to do a particular procedure, no standard tech stack, which can result in inefficiencies, right? We're all kind of doing things different ways. How do we go about doing it the VA way? And then when we think about the tools that they were using, I use the term tech stack lightly here, and this is common for many organizations. We see a wide range of where organizations are at, especially in the federal government level, right? In terms of where they're at in digital transformation. And for the VA, many of them were still on what I would call digital transformation 1.0 tools. For those of you who are at the VA now and on this webinar, that might be different for your VISN. We know that different organizations within the VA might do things differently. But what we mean by that, it was a lot of spreadsheets and email, a lot of manual methods to try to track all the things you would want to track on a construction project. And so that resulted in many, in a lot of different challenges that essentially, tracked back to missing budget with cost overruns and missing schedules. To dive into some of those challenges, first is really that lacking the visibility into project status. At any point in time, they really couldn't answer the question, are we meeting the milestones that we set? There are all these items that we want to make sure we check off that we need to complete from get to phase A to phase B and so on to progress through a construction project. At this point in time, are we there? And using spreadsheets and email, it's really not easy to answer that question. And the question is, if we aren't, even if you can get an answer to that question, why? Why aren't we where we want to be? In addition to that, there was a lack of accountability on the construction project at large between the owner, which is the VA, between various constituents on the construction project and stakeholders, like the consultants, the sub-consultants, everyone that's working together. There's really a lack around accountability around, again, things like issues and RFIs, and I'll unpack that here in a minute. So it's difficult to track, issues in RFIs when we're using kind of these, basic tools. The question was often, in whose court is the ball right now, right? So if we issue an RFI, if there's an issue that we're trying to track, whose responsibility is it right now to answer that question? And oftentimes, how it can be when we're using these kind of rudimentary tools. We've all heard that I've missed the email, oh, I didn't get it. We think we're waiting for a response that someone hasn't even started on because they aren't aware or have been prompted to actually to make that response. Poor record keeping was also kind of a challenge for them, which is, after a project was closed out and completed, there are times when if they weren't using spreadsheets and email, they may be beholden to a system that maybe the GC brought to the table. And so I'm sure it has happened where that project is closed out, that system goes away because the project has ended. It's not the system that the owner is responsible for or owns. And as a result, the data goes with it, right? So after a project was complete, the system goes away, and they'll go back and look for things like as-built, and they were missing, right? They just weren't there, and the project was over. There was no way to get that data that the owner had effectively paid for. And so, these issues translated to business impact, right? We're trickling down from these challenges. How does this impact the overall business environment? And so when we think about the financial costs and the schedule delays, a bit more detail about that. I'm sure many of you on the webinar today might be familiar with the concept of a delay claim, right? So delay claims were costing the VA a lot of money. And so a delay claim, for those of you who aren't familiar, is effectively if a subconsultant or consultant might ask the VA or issue an RFI to the VA, if the VA doesn't get back to them in a timely manner, that consultant is still paying his workers to be on the project. So as a result, they are entitled to a financial adjustment because they're paying without seeing progress on the project. And so having that lack of accountability around things like issues and RFIs, resulted in direct dollar expenditures to the VA. So if there was a way for them to better track that, to understand, where does this issue lie, and then if there was a dispute, to be able to go back to a given system and say, hey, look, here's where it's at. We did get back. There's an audit trail. The ball was in your court. That could save the VA a lot of money. Again, we talked about just some poor coordination around in communication with the project stakeholders, all those things with latency and project communication translated in schedule delays. And then there's also this idea around excessive RFIs, right, due to lack of tracking and a lack of access to information. When we're using these disparate systems, we don't have one place to go to access the information that we need to get the answers that we need. And then finally, and we think this is super important, Alan touched on this a little bit, but it's the idea that this system, Autodesk Build, and without it, if you don't have a system like this in place, that means it's very difficult to look back and have a historical record on construction project performance, right? So the business impact is, hey, when we had a project that was X million dollars over budget or X years past schedule, we couldn't even see clearly exactly why that was happening, right? Anecdotally, we can assess it. We could talk to people. That information is super valuable. Talk to the lead project engineer, say, what's happening? Why are there delays? But what data did we have to look back project over project to understand here are the consistent issues that we're seeing. We can now issue a corrective action so we can have better performance in the future. Without a system, they just were unable to do that.
Awesome. So you could paint the picture of everything Travis just talked about, and essentially pieces and parts of that, of those challenges fall within the various pieces and parts of the Autodesk Construction Cloud, certainly with Build and the historical record of who was doing what, when, and where. Everything is time stamped and attributed to those users. And the data rolls up to the back end, and you have dashboards just to identify where that risk is being introduced, and certainly was observed over the life cycle of the project. Incredibly important things for you as an owner, for sure. So, Travis, like, how did Autodesk Build, once introduced, how did it solve some of those challenges?
Yeah. So you've just touched on some of those things, but maybe to summarize it, the key here is having a single platform, right? It's one place to go to track project status, to, as you mentioned, increase visibility in project status, to improve the record keeping with tools like Autodesk Docs, okay? Then also having that data to identify the root cause of delays and improve project performance. Better coordination through the RFI modules, through submittal modules, through issue tracking, okay? So Autodesk Build has modules to facilitate RFIs, to facilitate submittals, to facilitate issues where these RFIs and issues can be assigned to a particular person, right? They're not just floating out there in space. At any given time, you can look and see all the RFIs, where they're at, what the status is, have they been resolved in a timely manner, and whose court the ball is in. And that's been tremendously helpful to the VA to help facilitate better project communication and reduce the latency and the time between RFIs. So all of that then translates to, of course, alleviating these delay claims where we're kind of waiting for things to happen, and as a result, sub-consultants are asking for financial adjustments. And I think the biggest thing, which we've alluded to, but we really want to hammer home, is this concept that can be realized in Autodesk Build through an executive dashboard, right? And that executive dashboard, if you're the chief of construction, right, and you can imagine having all these construction projects in a portfolio of 9 facilities and 46 outpatient clinics. At any given time, you can look at this dashboard, and the dashboard can promote the projects that are at risk with respect to time and budget. And then at that point, you have visibility into alleviating those issues, right? We know where the issues are. The dashboard is telling us what the issues are. We can assess them. We know who they lie with. So we can reach out and do what we need to resolve things and move the ball forward. Without that information, we just don't know where we stand, right? You finish the race, and the results are what they are. So it's been a work in progress to obviously implement Build, but we think we're going to see fantastic results, and I think Sam will attest to that.
Absolutely. And I suppose I can assist in this, in the why Autodesk Build over the competition. Just in my own experience, anecdotally, and then in project delivery myself, one of the benefits that we have with the Autodesk Build platform is Build is kind of, again, one of those pieces in the entire thread of a project's life cycle. So why Autodesk Build over the competition? Well, we've already got the entire beginning phase of project start, project kickoff. We've got design, we've got all of the preliminary, and then moving into the umbrella, obviously, Autodesk Construction Cloud, all of the pre-con that we saw earlier. And the great thing is that you've got that single source of truth that has ramped up all that data to the point that you're going to begin project delivery in Build. So that's really where we have this benefit over any of the other tools out there in the marketplace. Travis, additionally?
Yeah, I think you said it well. I would just say, it's been an end-to-end solution. That's probably the biggest thing, from design through construction and project management, through closeout, commissioning, and handover. I think what we heard Sam say, and obviously, you guys can ask him directly, but it's that, when looking at the competition, some of them were more point products, or they were very, centric around one particular thing. Maybe they're document centric. Maybe they were more centric around RFIs or submittals, but none of them really did that design, through construction, through the end of the project. And I think that was a big differentiator for them, looking at deploying one solution as opposed to maybe packaging together 2 or 3 to get what they need.
Perfect. And so lastly, as how can we, or how did we as Imagine come in to really assist Sam and his team with implementation and really getting it off the ground, getting them ramped up and moving along with their with the platform?
Yeah, great question. So I'll be brief here, but I think it's worth noting that when looking at implementing a tool like Autodesk Build, Autodesk Build is a powerful tool. It's but does require some configuration, is how I put it. But that's a good thing because it's highly configurable tool. And so what we helped the VA do was really define the key VA workflows, and then using our subject matter expertise with our applications team, we then came in, did some discovery, defined those key needs and key workflows, and then configured the tool in a fashion to work the way that the VA worked. In addition to that, we helped train their team, train their staff. And then there was one key thing, a question that we got oftentimes from owners is, hey, Travis, it sounds like a great system, but if you're going to deploy a system like this, how do we make sure that our contractors are actually going to use it? I'm sure you're all thinking of that now. The VA VISN 2 is actually making this their system of record, and it's going to be a requirement for their construction projects. What we've done for them to help ensure success for not just the VA staff, but the contractors on any given project, is we've established a self-paced online learning system. And then we created custom videos and learning paths where whenever a project starts, the consultants would go in and they will take this on-demand training on how to use essentially how to use Autodesk Build. So it will train them. It'll be self-paced training, and it's not just generic training about how to use Build in general. This video and learning content is produced to work with the VA system that we created, right? So it's not just generic Autodesk Build training. It's the VISN, it's the VA VISN 2 Autodesk Build environment. That is the system from which we develop this content. So that it just effectively means the consultants are getting training on the exact system that they'll need to use. We find that's a very effective way to do it.
Perfect. All right. Well, at this point, as Travis has mentioned, by all means, there's some there's Sam's contact. By all means, reach out to us, and we can, if you would like, we can put you in contact with him. Reach out to him. We don't want to inundate him necessarily, but you get the idea. He's absolutely willing to profess the utility of the Autodesk Construction Cloud and Build in particular for his daily work. So at this